We chase promotions, perfect homes, and public praise, yet the satisfaction always seems to slip away. This is because modern success focuses almost entirely on the external world, while ignoring the internal foundation it must be built upon. The ancient Stoics knew a profound secret, one that Marcus Aurelius captured when he wrote that the soul becomes a kingdom unto itself. True and lasting external achievement is not the goal. It is the natural byproduct of a well-ordered internal character. This video will guide you through 28 distinct mental shifts, drawn directly from Stoic wisdom, that serve as the true catalysts for everything you want to accomplish. You will gain a complete framework for rebuilding your mind from the inside out, a system that turns anxiety into action and effort into undeniable results. What is the one internal shift that could radically change your trajectory starting today? When was the last time you felt stressed by something you couldn't actually control? That feeling of tension, the racing thoughts, it almost always points to a single, fundamental confusion. The very first and most critical mental shift is learning to sort your entire life into two distinct categories. On one side are the things you command completely, and on the other, everything you do not. This is the Stoic dichotomy of control, and it is the bedrock of both inner serenity and external effectiveness. The philosopher Epictetus, a former slave who understood powerlessness better than most, began his entire teaching with this simple rule. Some things are up to us, he wrote, while others are not. Up to us are our opinions, our impulses, our desires, and our aversions. Essentially, everything that is truly our own doing. Not up to us are our body, our property, our reputation, and our public offices. Everything that is not our own action. Think about a job interview. You cannot control who the other candidates are, the mood of the interviewer, or the final decision the company makes. These belong in the category of things not up to you. What you can control, however, is how thoroughly you prepare, the sincerity you bring to the conversation, and how you choose to respond if you are rejected. Worrying about the outcome is a massive drain of energy that could be channeled into perfecting your presentation. This shift is not about giving up, it is about focusing your efforts with surgical precision. Every moment you spend fretting over an external result is a moment stolen from the internal work that actually matters, so take a mental inventory right now. What are 3 things causing you anxiety today? Write them down if you can and honestly ask yourself which part of each situation is truly within your power. This simple act of categorization is the first step in taking back your peace and your power. Between any event and your reaction, there is a space. Stoicism teaches you to expand it. This is the territory of your Prohairesis, a powerful Greek concept that represents your fundamental capacity for moral choice. Think of it as your inner citadel, the very core of who you are. It is not your automatic feelings or your startled flinch, but the faculty that steps in afterward to interpret what something means and to choose your deliberate response. This is where your true autonomy and freedom lie, not in controlling what happens to you, but in commanding your judgments about those events. The Stoic teacher Epictetus put it with stunning clarity. He said, "We are disturbed not by things, but by the views which we take of them. The critical email, the sudden traffic jam, the unexpected bill, these things in themselves hold no power to ruin your day. They are just events. The disturbance comes from the story you instantly tell yourself, the judgment that this is unfair or catastrophic or a personal attack. That story is your Prohairesis in action, even if it feels automatic. Imagine you receive some harsh feedback on a project. Your initial, reactive self might scream internally, labeling it an insult or a failure. This feels like a direct hit, but your Prohairesis, your inner command center, can intervene. It can pause and choose a different interpretation. It can decide to see the feedback not as an attack, but as raw data, a map that highlights where you can grow stronger. One judgment leads to defensiveness and resentment. The other opens the door to improvement and resilience. You are exercising the same power of choice in both cases. The only difference is whether you do it consciously or by default. So think back to a recent minor irritation, something that sparked a flash of anger or frustration. It could be a spilled coffee or an interrupted conversation. Now identify the silent judgment you attached to that event. Did you decide it was a sign the universe was against you, that the other person was deliberately rude? That your whole morning was now ruined? Recognizing that you authored that judgment is the first step toward reclaiming your Prohairesis. It is the moment you stop being a puppet jerked around by external events and start becoming the one who holds the strings. What if every setback was secretly working in your favor? This is not a comforting fantasy, but the core of a radical Stoic practice known as Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. It is the mental shift from mere tolerance of life's difficulties to a genuine, active embrace of them. Amor Fati asks you to see every event, especially the unwelcome ones, as necessary threads in the tapestry of your life, each one contributing to your strength and your story. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius repeatedly counseled himself to accept whatever nature brings. He wrote that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Your character can operate on the same principle, transforming every obstacle, every piece of bad news, every failure into the very fuel for your inner fire. Consider the historical fate of the philosopher Seneca, who was exiled to the island of Corsica by a vindictive emperor. He could have spent years in bitter resentment, railing against the injustice. Instead, he chose to love his fate. He used those years of isolation to write some of his most profound letters and essays, works that have outlived the empire that banished him. His exile, a thing meant to break him, became the crucible for his greatest contributions. This is the power of Amor Fati in action. It does not mean you enjoy pain or pretend that loss does not hurt. It means you trust the process of your own growth enough to believe that even the most difficult experiences are shaping you for a purpose you may not yet see. The delayed flight becomes an unexpected hour of quiet reading. The failed business venture teaches the precise lesson needed for the next successful one. The heartbreak opens up a deeper capacity for compassion. So take one current difficulty you are facing, something that feels like a pure negative. Now challenge yourself to reframe it. Ask, what hidden strength could this be forcing me to develop? What door, now closed, might be directing me toward a better one? What if this exact situation, however painful, is precisely what you need right now to become the person you are meant to be? Let's pull back the camera way back and look at your life from the perspective of the cosmos. This is the fourth internal shift, the view from above, a mental exercise that dissolves anxiety by revealing its true miniature scale. Picture yourself not in your room or your city, but as a tiny point on a pale blue dot spinning in the immensity of space. From this vantage point, your urgent deadlines, social slights, and personal dramas lose their crushing weight. They become what they have always been, small events in a vast and ancient universe. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly, reminding himself to frequently contemplate the swift passage of all that exists. He wrote, "Of the life of man, the duration is but a point, the substance itself is ever flowing, the perception is dull. The fabric of the whole body readily decays. The soul is a whirl. Fortune is hard to make out. Fame is uncertain. In one sweeping thought, he reduced every human concern to its fleeting, ephemeral nature. This is not meant to make your life feel meaningless, but to free you from the ego's inflation of every minor problem into a catastrophe. That difficult conversation you are dreading, or the criticism you received, how will it look from the viewpoint of 100 years from now? It will have vanished along with everyone involved, absorbed into the silent history of a world that has moved on. This perspective is a tool for immediate relief. The next time you feel your chest tighten over a missed bus or a harsh word, pause and perform this mental launch. See the entire scene from high above your town, then higher until continents curve below you. Watch as your personal worry shrinks to an invisible speck against the planet. What remains is not the problem itself, but your capacity to meet it with grace and reason, your small but significant part in the grand story of everything. What trivial concern have you allowed to loom too large in your mind's sky today? Stoics were masters of pessimism, but it made them incredibly resilient optimists. This fifth internal shift is the Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils, a deliberate practice of visiting in your mind the very things you fear losing. This is not a descent into anxiety or a morbid fixation on the worst. It is a training exercise for the soul, designed to inoculate you against the paralyzing shock of misfortune when it actually arrives. Seneca explored this idea with powerful clarity in his letters, advising his friend Lucilius to rehearse poverty, loss, and exile in his thoughts. He wrote that he who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. By facing potential losses in the safe theater of your own mind, you strip the future event of its greatest weapon, which is the element of surprise. You are not inviting disaster, you are disarming it. Take a moment to visualize losing your job. Do not just skim the surface of the thought, but truly walk through it. Feel the initial sting of the news, the uncertainty of the next day. Then move forward in your mind. You would still have your capacity for reason, your ability to plan, your hands and your mind to work. You would still have the support of friends or family, or the inner resourcefulness to find new solutions. The loss of the title or the paycheck does not touch your core strength of character. That remains entirely yours. You can apply this same mental rehearsal to any valued possession or relationship. By consciously contemplating its absence, you accomplish two profound things at once. You build a fortress of resilience within yourself, knowing you can endure the loss, and you simultaneously ignite a fierce, present-moment gratitude for the very thing you still have. So choose one anchor in your life, something or someone whose absence would feel devastating. Now, for just a moment, allow yourself to consider a world without it. What virtues would you be forced to call upon? What inner resources, now dormant, would awaken to carry you forward? This practice reveals a stunning truth, that your safety was never stored in external things, but has always been waiting within you. Let's talk about the one thing we all have in common, our mortality. This is the sixth internal shift, Memento Mori, the remembrance that you must die. Far from being a morbid fixation, this is a profound tool for creating absolute clarity and purpose. It is the ultimate filter for distraction, cutting through the noise of trivial concerns to reveal what is genuinely important. The Stoics did not see death as a distant tragedy to be feared, but as a close and constant advisor. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you could leave life right now, and let that determine what you do and say and think. He did not mean you should live with a frantic, panicked energy, but with a focused and virtuous urgency, refusing to postpone the life you are meant to be living. Think about a difficult conversation you have been avoiding, perhaps to set a boundary or mend a relationship. The thought of it might fill you with anxiety about awkwardness or conflict. Now hold the thought of your own mortality alongside it. If your time was truly limited, would that potential awkwardness still matter more than the truth that needs to be spoken or the connection that needs healing? The remembrance of death instantly reorders your priorities, giving you the courage to do what is right, not what is easy. Or consider a creative project or a personal goal you have been putting off for a someday that may never come. Memento Mori asks, if not now, then when? It infuses the present moment with a weight and significance that procrastination cannot survive. So here is a question to sit with, a reflective prompt to make this shift personal and immediate. If you knew with certainty that you had just 1 year left to live, what is the one thing you would start doing today that you are not doing now? And just as importantly, what is the one thing you would immediately stop doing? The answers to these questions are not about a bucket list of exotic travels, but about the core architecture of your character and your relationships. They reveal the gap between the life you are living and the life you know deep down you are called to live. Memento Mori closes that gap not by frightening you but by freeing you to begin. The next time something bad happens, try stripping away the label and just see the facts. What remains is a simple event stripped of the story you added to it. This is the seventh internal shift, moving from judgment to observation, and it is the key to unlocking a profound and steady calm. Our instinct is to instantly categorize every experience. A flat tire is a disaster, a critical comment is an insult, but the Stoics argued that the event itself is neutral. The real source of our distress is the value judgment we stamp onto it the moment it occurs. The philosopher Epictetus laid this out with unflinching clarity. He taught that it is not things that disturb people, but their judgments about those things. He went even further, stating that things themselves are indifferent, but our use of them is not indifferent. The power and the freedom lies entirely in that second part, in our use, which is to say, in our judgment. Take the simple example of rain cancelling a picnic. You had plans, you were looking forward to sunshine and sandwiches, and now the sky is gray and wet. The automatic judgment is that this is bad, frustrating, a ruined afternoon, but observe the event without that label. The facts are merely this: water is falling from the sky. That is all. It is not inherently good or bad. The judgment of bad belongs entirely to you and your specific desire for a dry outing. The same rain is a desperately needed blessing for a farmer whose crops are parched. The event is identical. The only difference is the judgment attached to it. By learning to observe first and judge later, or better yet, not to judge at all, you reclaim the space between what happens and how you feel about it. A project at work falls through. The judgment says, "I am a failure." Observation states, the project concluded without the desired outcome. One narrative crushes your spirit. The other leaves your core self intact and opens the door to clear-eyed analysis and a new plan. Your challenge today is to become a detective of your own mind. Catch yourself in the act of making a negative judgment, even a small one. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and your internal voice instantly labels them a terrible person. Notice that, then try to set the label aside for just a moment. What are the pure facts? A car changed lanes abruptly. That is the observable event. Everything else, the anger, the frustration, the story about their character, is your added judgment. By practicing this simple act of separation, you are not becoming passive or indifferent to life. You are building a foundation of equanimity so strong that when truly significant events occur, you can meet them not with reactive panic, but with a calm and powerful response. What single event will you practice observing today, free from the weight of your own judgment? Your true value isn't determined by your resume, your bank account, or your social media likes. These are fragile, external markers that rise and fall with the whims of the market and public opinion. The eighth mental shift calls you to construct something far more durable, an inner citadel built on the four pillars of Stoic virtue. Wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance become the only true goods, the sole measure of your success and self-worth. When your identity is anchored here in the quality of your character, no outside force can ever diminish you. You become unshakable. Seneca captured this perfectly when he wrote that a good conscience is the only necessary possession. Think about the profound security in that statement. Your reputation can be slandered, your wealth can be lost, your status can vanish, but your conscious knowledge that you acted with integrity, that you chose wisely and fairly, remains entirely your own. This is a possession that no one can confiscate. Consider the pursuit of a promotion. If you are chasing it primarily for the title, the bigger office, or the admiration of others, you have built your happiness on a foundation of sand. The moment you are passed over, your entire sense of worth can collapse. But if you reframe the pursuit as an exercise in virtue, everything changes. You strive for the promotion as an act of justice, believing you can contribute more to your team and your company. You use wisdom to prepare thoroughly and temperance to manage your time and energy. You exercise courage to advocate for yourself and to accept the outcome with grace, whatever it may be. In this version, you win regardless of the final decision, because your goal was not the external reward, but the expression of your own best character. So take a quiet moment for a personal inventory. Look back over the last week and set aside your external accomplishments. Instead, identify one single, seemingly small action where you consciously chose to be virtuous. Maybe it was the courage to speak a difficult truth with kindness. Perhaps it was the temperance to walk away from a pointless argument, or the justice you showed by listening patiently to a colleague you usually ignore. That action, not the number in your bank account or the plaque on your wall, is the real measure of your success. It is the unassailable brick you have just placed in your inner citadel. We're often chasing the next thing, believing it will bring us peace, but Stoicism points in a different direction. This relentless pursuit of more, this constant hum of wanting, is the very engine of our inner turmoil. The ninth internal shift is a move from this state of restless desire to a state of equanimity, a profound contentment with what is already here and what is truly sufficient. The ancient Greeks had a word for this tranquil state of mind, ataraxia, a serenity that comes not from acquiring more, but from wanting less. Your freedom is found in the space between your desires and your possessions. The philosopher Epictetus framed this with piercing insight. He said that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Pause for a moment and let that idea settle. Poverty and wealth, in the Stoic sense, are not conditions of your bank account, but conditions of your soul. A person with millions can be perpetually impoverished by insatiable greed, while a person with modest means can feel truly rich through the simple practice of contentment. This is the ultimate leverage over your own happiness. Consider the modern plague of FOMO, the fear of missing out. It is a perfect example of desire running rampant. You scroll through a feed of curated highlights, and a quiet anxiety whispers that your own life is lacking, that you should be at that party, on that vacation, or achieving that milestone. This desire for a different experience pulls you out of your own life, making you a spectator to an illusion while your real moments slip by unappreciated. But when you practice contentment, when you consciously decide that what you have and where you are is enough, FOMO simply evaporates. It has nothing to feed on. Your life becomes the main event, not a dress rehearsal for something happening elsewhere. So here is a practical challenge for today. Identify one quiet desire that consistently tugs at your attention, something you believe you need to be happier or more complete. It might be a newer car, a different job title, or even just the desire for a particular person's approval. Now, for just this one day, make the conscious choice to release it. See what happens when you tell yourself, "This is not a necessity for my peace. I am sufficient as I am, right here, right now." Notice the space that opens up when you stop reaching for that one thing. That space is not emptiness, it is the very ground of your freedom. Before you believe that stressful thought, Stoicism asks you to hit pause. This is the discipline of assent, the 10th internal shift, and it is your mind's emergency brake. It is the conscious act of withholding your agreement from any initial impression that storms into your awareness, giving you the critical seconds to examine it under the light of reason before you let it shape your reality. Your first, raw interpretation of an event is often a reflex, not a truth. The Stoic teacher Epictetus gave a simple, powerful instruction for this moment. He said, "Do not be carried away by the vividness of the impression, but say, 'Wait for me a little, O appearance. Allow me to see who you are and what you are about.'" That tiny moment of hesitation is where your power lies. Imagine you receive a brief email from your boss that reads, "We need to talk, end of message." The immediate, automatic impression might scream that you are in trouble, that you have made a grave error, that your job is on the line. This impression arrives with such force and vividness that it feels like an established fact. Your heart races, your stomach clenches, and your entire afternoon is poisoned by anxiety. But this is the precise moment to exercise the discipline of assent. You press the mental pause button. You say to that impression, "Wait, let me see. Is it true that this email means I am in trouble? Could it be about a new project, a simple question, or a routine update?" The facts are merely words on a screen. The story of impending doom is a fabrication of your own mind, one you were about to assent to without a second thought. By pausing, you break the chain reaction. You move from being a passive recipient of emotional chaos to an active investigator of reality. This practice is not about suppressing emotions, but about inserting a filter between the spark of a feeling and the blaze of a reaction. The next time a strong negative impression arises, whether it is jealousy from a friend's social media post or road rage at a careless driver, challenge yourself to this single act of discipline. Freeze the frame, do not let the story run. Simply observe the impression as if it were a stranger at your door and quietly ask, "What is your evidence?" Is your narrative the only possible explanation? That sliver of space, that intentional delay, is the birthplace of a calmer, more rational, and truly empowered you. What stressful thought will you choose to pause today? Stoics saw themselves not as isolated individuals, but as limbs of a single, great body. This 11th internal shift is the practice of Sympatheia, a profound sense of kinship with the entire cosmos. It is the understanding that your own well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of the whole, that an injury to one part of this universal body is an injury to you as well. This perspective dissolves the illusion of separation, replacing it with a natural and compelling sense of duty toward all of humanity. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea again and again in his private writings, reminding himself that rational beings exist for the sake of one another. He wrote that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Your own reason is not a private tool for personal gain, but a fragment of the universal reason that organizes all things, a shared faculty that connects you to every other thinking person. When you internalize this, your entire orientation toward the world shifts from one of competition to one of cooperation. You begin to see the stranger on the street, the colleague in a different department, and the citizen of a distant nation not as competitors for scarce resources, but as fellow limbs of the same organism, each with a role to play in the health of the whole. This is not a vague spiritual idea, but a practical guide for daily action. In a modern workplace, Sympatheia transforms how you approach teamwork. You stop seeing a coworker's success as a threat to your own and start recognizing that their victory strengthens the entire team, which in turn supports you. It is the difference between hoarding information to gain a personal advantage and freely sharing knowledge so the entire project can succeed. On a larger scale, this principle is the foundation of genuine community service and environmental stewardship. Picking up a piece of litter in a park you do not own is an act of sympatheia, a small tending of the shared body. Making a consumer choice that considers the well-being of workers you will never meet is an application of this cosmic interconnectedness. So here is a question to make this shift personal and immediate. This week, what is one concrete action you can take that benefits your wider human family? It does not need to be a grand gesture. It could be as simple as offering sincere and specific praise to a teammate, volunteering an hour of your time to a local cause, or making a purchase from a company that aligns with your values for a better world. In that single act, you move from being a solitary individual to a conscious, caring limb of the vast and beautiful body of everything. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear. This is the essence of the 12th internal shift, moving from avoidance to courageous action. The Stoics defined courage not as a reckless absence of feeling, but as the virtue of doing what is right and necessary despite the presence of discomfort, danger, or social disapproval. It is the will to act in accordance with your principles, even when every instinct screams to retreat into safety and silence. Seneca explored this idea with profound clarity in his letters, writing that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. He argued that we are not given a virtuous character, we forge one by confronting the very things we are tempted to avoid. The obstacle is not the enemy of your progress, it is the raw material for building your resilience. Consider the common scenario of a team meeting where a flawed plan is gaining momentum. Staying silent is the easy path, the one that avoids conflict and preserves your social comfort. But if you see a genuine problem, a potential injustice to the project or the team, courage demands that you speak. Your voice might shake. You might fear being seen as negative or disruptive. Yet you speak anyway because the principle of contributing to the best outcome is more important than your temporary discomfort. That is Stoic courage in its purest form. It is not about being fearless, but about making your values heavier than your fear. This same principle applies to starting that difficult project you have been procrastinating on. The fear of failure, of a messy first draft, or of the immense effort required can be paralyzing. Courage here is the simple, decisive act of taking the first small step, of prioritizing the integrity of your effort over the comfort of inaction. So now turn this lens on your own life. Where are you currently avoiding unnecessary, virtuous action because of fear? Is there a difficult conversation you need to initiate? A creative risk you are hesitating to take, or a boundary you need to set? Identify that one area, then ask yourself this: what specific, courageous step could you take in the next 24 hours that would honor your principles more than your fear? That single step, however small, is how you begin to forge an unbreakable will. What if having less actually gave you more freedom? This is the provocative question at the heart of the 13th internal shift, the art of contentment with less. It is a deliberate practice of voluntary discomfort and simplicity, designed to prove a profound truth to your own nervous system, that your happiness is not dependent on an endless list of comforts and possessions. In a world shouting that you need more to be happy, this is the quiet, radical act of discovering you already have enough. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus was a powerful advocate for this training. He argued that we should practice poverty not to become poor but to conquer the fear of poverty. By choosing to go without, you demonstrate to yourself that you can endure the very loss you might dread, and in doing so, you rob it of its power to control you. This practice is the ultimate antidote to consumerism, not because material things are evil, but because your attachment to them is a form of slavery. Seneca echoed this, writing that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. When you voluntarily simplify, you are not moving toward deprivation, but toward a deeper appreciation of the abundance that already surrounds you. A simple meal becomes a feast when you truly taste it. A quiet evening at home becomes a sanctuary when you are not longing to be somewhere else. This shift is about strengthening your ability to be happy under any circumstances, building a resilience that no change in fortune can shake. The applications are immediate and deeply personal. You could start by taking a cold shower instead of a hot one, not as a punishment, but as a small exercise in embracing a sensation you did not choose. You could choose to fast from one meal, not for dieting, but to feel the pangs of hunger and observe that they pass, and that you remain fundamentally intact. Or you could declutter a single drawer or shelf, physically removing items that no longer serve you, and experiencing the mental space and lightness that follows. Each of these small acts is a vote for your own inner strength over external comfort. So here is your challenge. For the next 24 hours, choose one small comfort you usually take for granted and voluntarily go without it. It could be your morning coffee, the background noise of the television, or that second helping at dinner. Pay close attention to the minor urge to have it, and then consciously choose to let it be. Notice what arises in that space. Do you feel a sense of lack, or do you discover a quiet capacity you did not know you had? This single, simple act is a masterclass in freedom, teaching you that the walls of your prison are much thinner than you think. The moment you stop blaming others is the moment you reclaim your power. This 14th mental shift is a complete transfer of agency from the outside world back into your own hands. It is the conscious decision to take full ownership of your life and your responses, relinquishing the deeply ingrained habit of pointing fingers at people, circumstances, or bad luck. Stoicism teaches that while you control very little of what happens to you, you are 100% responsible for your judgments and your actions in the face of those events. The philosopher Epictetus put this with startling bluntness. He said that if a person is making progress, he has this as evidence that he censures no one. He went on to say that to blame others for your own misfortunes is a sign of a lack of education in the art of life. This is not about accepting unjust treatment as your fault, but about recognizing that your power lies not in changing the unjust person, but in mastering your reaction to them. Your reaction is your sovereign territory, and the habit of blame is the act of surrendering that territory without a fight. Think about the common frustration of being stuck in a traffic jam. The automatic, blame-filled reaction is to rage at the other drivers, at the city planners, at the universe for conspiring against your schedule. This blame feels justified, but it does nothing to move the cars. It only fills your body with stress and your mind with powerlessness. The responsible response, the one that reclaims your power, is to acknowledge the reality of the situation. You are in traffic. This is the external event. Now, what is within your control? You can choose to use the time to listen to an audiobook, to sit in silence and gather your thoughts, or to simply practice patience. The traffic is the same. The outcome for your schedule may be the same. but one experience is a self-inflicted torment, while the other is a moment of chosen peace. The difference is not the traffic, but your ownership of your inner state. So now, bring this home. Reflect on a recent frustration, something that genuinely irritated you. Perhaps a project at work was delayed by a colleague, or a friend cancelled plans at the last minute. Now, ask yourself this challenging but liberating question. How did I contribute to my own experience of this event? Did I attach a story of personal disrespect to the cancellation? Did I fuel my anger by replaying the delay in my mind instead of pivoting to a new task? This is not about self-criticism, but about self-awareness. When you identify your own role in the emotional outcome, you are not admitting guilt, you are discovering the precise point where you can insert your power the next time. That point is always and only within you. A common myth paints the Stoics as cold and unfeeling, but this misses the entire point of their project. They were not seeking to eliminate emotion, but to liberate themselves from the tyranny of destructive passions. This 15th shift is the practice of Apatheia, a state of inner freedom where you experience feelings without being hijacked by them. It is the difference between feeling a wave of anger and being drowned by it, between noticing sadness and letting it define your entire day. The Stoics drew a sharp line between the initial, involuntary feelings that arise in any human heart, which they called Prohairesis, and the full-blown, assented to passions that can overtake reason. The goal is not numbness but profound clarity. Seneca masterfully captured this distinction in his work on anger, describing how even the wisest person might feel the first stirrings of anger, the initial shock or pang. But the sage, he wrote, will not pursue it or invite it in. They feel the bite, but they refuse the venom. The fool, by contrast, takes that first spark and pours fuel on it, raging until the fire consumes their better judgment. Imagine someone delivers a cutting personal insult. The initial sting is automatic, a flash of heat in your chest. This is the Prohairesis, the first movement of the soul, and it is not within your direct control. But what happens next is the entire territory of your freedom. The passion of anger would have you lash out immediately, crafting a withering retort designed to inflict equal pain. Your heart pounds, your vision narrows, and for those few minutes, the desire for retaliation is the only thing that exists. This is being ruled by a passion. The reasoned response, guided by Apatheia, acknowledges the sting but does not obey it. It pauses. It asks, is this insult true? Even if it is, does an angry response serve my character or my goals? It might choose to respond with calm firmness, or to simply disregard the comment as the other person's issue, not its own. The feeling was felt, but it was not allowed to take the wheel. Your challenge is to become an observer of your own emotional weather. The next time a powerful emotion arises, be it jealousy, despair, or a surge of possessive desire, pause for just a moment. Do not try to suppress it. Instead, simply notice it. Ask yourself this one question: does this feeling feel like a clear, reasoned signal, or does it feel like a storm that is clouding my judgment and demanding an immediate, reactive move? That moment of observation is the first step toward Apatheia. It is the space where you stop being a passenger to your passions and start becoming the pilot of your own mind. Your power to think, to act, to be virtuous exists only in this very moment. Every other point in time is a mental phantom, a story you tell yourself that has no tangible reality. The 16th internal shift calls you to pull all of your scattered energy back from these imaginary lands and plant it firmly in the now, the only place where your life is actually happening. Anxiety is a tax you pay on a future that may never come. Regret is a prison you build from the bricks of a past you cannot change. Both are profound wastes of your one true resource, the present moment where your will can actually operate. Marcus Aurelius offered himself this exact instruction, a simple command to reclaim his mind. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. You can retreat into yourself at any time you want." Your inner citadel has no door more accessible than the one that opens into the immediate now. When you are fully present, you are not ignoring the future or the past. You are simply engaging with them from the only position of strength you have. You plan for the future by taking a wise action now. You learn from the past by reflecting on it with clarity in this moment. But the moment you drift into worrying about tomorrow's meeting or ruminating on yesterday's mistake, you have abandoned your post. Consider the common feeling of being overwhelmed by a large project. The entire book, the complete business plan, the whole renovation seems impossibly large. Your mind leaps ahead to all the potential problems and the sheer volume of work, and a sense of paralysis sets in. This is the future hijacking your power. The Stoic response is to ruthlessly narrow your focus down to the single, present moment task. You are not writing a book, you are writing one sentence. You are not building a business, you are making one phone call. You are not renovating a house, you are sanding one piece of wood. The entirety of your effort and attention pours into that one manageable action. The mountain ceases to exist and only the next step matters. This is how overwhelm is conquered, not by a heroic leap, but by a series of fully present small steps. So here is a practice to make this shift tangible today. Choose one simple daily activity, something you normally do on autopilot. It could be drinking your morning tea, walking to your car, or even washing a single dish. For the next 5 minutes, dedicate your entire awareness to that activity. Feel the warmth of the cup in your hands, notice the subtle flavors on your tongue, observe the rhythm of your breath as you walk. When your mind inevitably wanders to a worry or a memory, gently, without judgment, guide it back to the sensations of the present. This is not a meditation exercise, it is a training drill for your command center. It teaches you that your point of power is not somewhere else or at some other time. It is right here, right now, in the simple act of paying attention. How much energy do you waste comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20? That constant, silent measuring of your own life against the curated highlight reels of others is a drain on your spirit and a distraction from your true work. The 17th internal shift is a decisive move from this exhausting external comparison to a grounding practice of self-reference. Your only valid standard is not another person's life, but your own potential and your commitment to living in accordance with your nature and virtue. When you look sideways to gauge your worth, you surrender your inner compass. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus offered a simple, powerful rule to break this habit. He instructed his students not to be concerned with what other people are doing or saying, but only with whether you yourself are acting justly and nobly. Your focus, he argued, must remain entirely on your own choices and your own moral progress, for that is the only territory you truly command. Consider the modern plague of social media envy. You scroll through a feed and see a peer celebrating a massive professional achievement, a friend on a glamorous vacation, or an acquaintance with a seemingly perfect family. The automatic comparative thought whispers that you are falling behind, that your own life is lacking in some fundamental way. This feeling is a trap. You are comparing your raw, behind-the-scenes reality to their polished final cut. You have no idea what struggles they endured to reach that point, or what challenges they face outside the frame. The comparison is not just unfair, it is entirely irrelevant to your journey. The self-referential question, the one that matters, is this: are you today acting with more wisdom and integrity than you did yesterday? Are you making choices that align with your deepest principles, regardless of what anyone else is doing? This shift turns your energy inward toward a race you can actually win, the race against your former self. So take a moment for a quiet, honest reflection. Bring to mind one specific instance from today or this week where you caught yourself making a negative comparison. Perhaps you felt a pang of insecurity when a colleague received praise, or you scrolled past a vacation photo and felt a sense of lack. Write that comparison down if you can. Now reframe it. Instead of asking why they have something you do not, ask yourself a different question. In that same area of my life, what is one small, concrete step I can take to grow according to my own values? If you felt envy about a career milestone, your question becomes, what skill can I practice for 30 minutes tomorrow to become more proficient? If it was about a relationship, your question becomes, how can I be more present and kind in my interactions today? This single act of reframing moves you from a passive spectator of other people's lives to the active author of your own. Justice is not just for courtrooms, it is how you treat the barrister, your colleague, and yourself. This 18th shift moves the virtue of justice from an abstract ideal into a daily practice of right relations with everyone you encounter. Stoic justice is far broader than legal fairness. It is the unwavering commitment to act with fairness, kindness, and a fundamental concern for the common good in every single interaction, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. It is about recognizing your role as a social being and actively doing your part for the health of the whole human hive. Marcus Aurelius continually returned to this truth in his private meditations, reminding himself that what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. Your own well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of the community around you, and acting unjustly is like a limb attacking the body it depends on for life. Every transaction, every conversation is an opportunity to practice this virtue. Giving honest but constructive feedback to a coworker, even when it is easier to stay silent, is an act of justice. It serves the truth and helps the entire team improve. Taking the time to return a lost wallet or simply listening fully to someone without glancing at your phone, these are just actions. They affirm the dignity of the other person and reinforce the fabric of shared trust that holds society together. This even extends to how you treat yourself. Berating yourself for a mistake is an internal act of injustice, a refusal to offer yourself the same fairness you would grant a friend. So your challenge is to make this shift tangible today. Before the day is over, perform one consciously just action, no matter how small. It could be as simple as letting a car merge into your lane during rush hour, or offering a genuine compliment to the person who made your coffee. Notice the quiet alignment you feel when your action, however minor, contributes to a slightly better, more connected world. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. This is a core Stoic alchemy, the 19th internal shift that transforms every impediment from a dead end into the very material for your progress. A challenge is not a blockade on your journey. It is the journey itself, offering you the precise conditions needed to exercise courage, to spark creativity, and to forge perseverance. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire beset by plague and war, captured this mindset with stunning clarity. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not a motivational platitude, but a practical recognition that a smooth path requires no strength, no skill, no growth. It is the rough and rocky terrain that develops the sure-footed climber. Think of a business venture that fails. The immediate interpretation is one of loss and defeat, a final, negative outcome. But viewed through this Stoic lens, the failure is not an endpoint. It is a dense package of raw data containing invaluable lessons about market fit, team dynamics, and personal blind spots. The resilience you build from navigating the closure, the humility you gain, and the sharpened clarity about what truly works are all assets that directly fuel your next, more informed attempt. The obstacle did not stop your action. It advanced it by forcing a level of learning that comfort could never provide. This principle applies to the most mundane frustrations as well. A broken-down car becomes an exercise in patience and problem-solving. A difficult colleague becomes your daily training partner for practicing empathy and maintaining your own composure. The obstacle itself is neutral, but your creative engagement with it is where virtue lies. So bring to mind one current obstacle in your own life, something that feels like a genuine block. Now challenge yourself with this reframing exercise. Identify 3 distinct ways this very impediment could be used to practice a specific Stoic virtue. Perhaps this delay is an opportunity to practice temperance by managing your frustration. Maybe this criticism is a chance to practice justice by listening fairly without defensiveness. Or this physical limitation could be a call to practice courage by finding a new way to adapt and move forward. The block was never the real issue, your relationship to it was, and that is a power you can reclaim starting now. Gratitude is more than a feeling. For a Stoic, it is a disciplined practice that rewires your brain for contentment. This 20th shift builds directly on the Premeditation of Evils, transforming that mental rehearsal of loss into a vibrant appreciation for what is still here. When you have already walked through the possibility of losing your health, your relationships, or your home in your mind, their continued presence ceases to be an expectation and starts to feel like a daily gift. This practice systematically dismantles entitlement, that quiet voice that whispers you deserve more and better, replacing it with a grounded recognition of the sheer unearned goodness that already fills your life. Seneca captured this perfectly when he advised us to enjoy present blessings while we possess them without anxious attachment, and to remember that they are on loan, not given forever. He reminds us that we should love all our dear ones, but always with the thought that we have no promise that we may keep them forever. This is not a morbid thought, but a key that unlocks a deeper, more resilient joy. The person who knows their favorite cup could break cherishes it more deeply each time they use it. The person who acknowledges a friend's mortality listens more intently to their stories. Gratitude flourishes in this soil of conscious impermanence. To cultivate this, institute a simple daily ritual. Each evening before sleep, mentally note 3 specific things from your day for which you are genuinely grateful. Do not settle for vague generalities like family or health. Dig for the precise sensory details, the warmth of the sun on your skin during a 5-minute walk, the taste of a perfectly ripe piece of fruit, the sound of a child's laughter from another room, the way a colleague remembered a small detail you shared. By focusing on the specific, you train your mind to scan for goodness, to notice the countless small gifts that normally blur into the background of a busy life. So right now, as you listen, pause for just a moment, look around you or simply look inward. Find one small, often overlooked thing to be genuinely grateful for in this exact second. It could be the chair supporting you, the electricity powering the device you are using, or simply the fact that you have a mind capable of hearing these words and considering these ideas. That single conscious act of noticing is a quiet revolution against taking life for granted. How much do you truly learn when you're the one doing all the talking? This 21st shift redirects your focus from the noise of your own voice to the profound power of silence and deep listening. In the quiet spaces between words, you gain access to a clearer understanding of others, and more importantly, of your own internal reasoning. This is not merely a social skill, but a disciplined practice of Stoic temperance and wisdom, a conscious restraint of the impulse to dominate a conversation. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno of Citium, captured the essence of this with a simple, physical observation. He noted that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This is not an anatomical accident, but a philosophical instruction. Your role in any dialogue is first to receive, to comprehend, and only then to contribute. When you rush to fill the silence with your own thoughts, you are often just rehearsing what you already believe, closing the door to new perspectives. Consider 2 different conversations. In the first, you are speaking with a friend who is sharing a problem. While they talk, a part of your mind is already crafting your response, your advice, your own similar story to share. You are waiting for your turn to talk, not truly listening to understand their world. The conversation ends and you have exchanged words, but you have not connected deeply. Now imagine the same conversation, but you make a conscious choice to listen. You quiet your internal monologue. You hear not just their words, but the emotion behind them. You ask a clarifying question. You offer the simple, powerful gift of your full presence. In that silence you created for them, true understanding has room to grow, and any response you do offer will be immeasurably more thoughtful and relevant. Your challenge today is to practice being the last person to speak in at least one meaningful conversation. Let others finish their thoughts completely. Resist the urge to interrupt or immediately solve their problem. Simply absorb. Notice the quality of the silence you create and the deeper insights that arise when you prioritize understanding over being understood. Long before modern psychology coined the term growth mindset, the Stoics were living its principles every day. They understood that your character and capabilities are not carved in stone, but are more like a muscle that strengthens with consistent, deliberate practice. This 20-second internal shift asks you to see every challenge not as a threat to a fixed identity, but as an opportunity to expand what you are capable of becoming. Virtue for the Stoics was not an innate quality you either possessed or lacked. It was a practical skill, honed through repetition and effort, much like learning to play an instrument or speak a new language. Your capacity for courage, wisdom, and justice is not a predetermined limit. It is a potential waiting to be unlocked by the very obstacles that seem to block your path. Seneca explored this idea with powerful clarity in his letters, writing that difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. He saw hardships as a necessary training ground, arguing that a man who is shipwrecked becomes a skilled sailor through the experience of the storm. Every failure, then, is not a final verdict on your abilities, but invaluable feedback on your current technique. It is the chisel that chips away at the rough marble to reveal the stronger form within. Think about the process of learning a physical skill like woodworking or dancing. Your first attempts are inevitably clumsy, your movements awkward and unrefined. A fixed mindset would interpret this initial clumsiness as proof that you are simply not a natural, leading you to give up in frustration. But a growth mindset, the Stoic mindset, embraces the clumsiness as an essential, non-negotiable part of the journey. Each misplaced chisel stroke teaches you about the grain of the wood. Each misstep on the dance floor trains your body in balance and rhythm. The mistake is the lesson itself, delivered in the most direct way possible. This applies with equal force to the development of your inner world. When you lose your temper, that is not proof you are an angry person. It is feedback that your practice of patience and perspective needs more focused repetition. When you avoid a difficult duty, it is not a character flaw, but a signal that your courage muscle requires more deliberate exercise. So take a quiet moment for a personal inventory. Identify one area of your life where you tend to hold a fixed mindset, where you tell yourself a story like, "I am just not good with numbers," or "I am not a disciplined person," or "I am simply bad at public speaking." Now consciously reframe that story. See this not as an unchangeable truth, but as a skill you have not yet fully developed. What is the very first, small, clumsy step you could take today to begin practicing that skill? The shift begins not when you master it, but the moment you choose to believe it can be mastered. A fig tree is not anxious about becoming an oak. It simply does the work of being a fig tree, and in that it finds its purpose and its peace. This is the heart of the 23rd internal shift, acting according to your nature. For a human being, to live according to nature means to live as a rational and social being, using your unique gift of reason for the common good. This is the Stoic definition of happiness itself, not a fleeting feeling, but the deep fulfillment that comes from fully inhabiting your role in the grand design of things. Marcus Aurelius often returned to this simple, grounding truth, reminding himself that a fig tree doing its own work is the model. He wrote that if you are estranged from your own nature, what else can you possibly expect but sorrow? Your nature is not to act randomly or selfishly, but to apply your capacity for logic, empathy, and cooperation. When you align your actions with this core design, you are not just being good, you are being whole. Think of a parent comforting a frightened child in the middle of the night. The tired, reactive mind might crave uninterrupted sleep, but the parent's rational and social nature recognizes a higher duty. It calls for patience, for love, for the use of reason to soothe and protect. In that moment, by acting according to their nature, the parent finds a profound sense of rightness that transcends their personal fatigue. Or consider an employee faced with a chance to cut corners for personal gain. The impulsive nature might be tempted, but the rational nature calculates the long-term damage to trust and reputation. The social nature considers the impact on colleagues and customers. Choosing instead to do the work with integrity is an act of aligning with your human design. It is the fig tree simply bearing its fruit. So take a quiet moment to reflect on the many roles you play. You are a friend, a family member, a colleague, a citizen. Choose just one of these roles for today. Now ask yourself, what would it look like to act completely according to my rational and social nature in this single area? How could I use my reason not for selfish advantage, but to bring genuine benefit to this relationship or this responsibility? Your answer is the compass needle pointing directly toward your own unique fulfillment. Can you enjoy something but also easily walk away from it? This is the ultimate test of your freedom, and it forms the core of the 24th shift, the practice of deliberate self-denial. The Stoics did not abstain from pleasures because they hated comfort, but to prove a vital point to their own minds that they were not enslaved by their preferences. It is a training regimen for the soul, designed to build the willpower that ensures you remain the master of your desires, not their obedient servant. The teacher Musonius Rufus was a powerful advocate for this exact discipline. He taught that we should regularly practice abstaining from pleasures in order to strengthen the soul. He argued that by doing so, a person becomes self-controlled and courageous. This is not about punishment or austerity for its own sake. It is a conscious, temporary exercise in demonstrating that your happiness and identity are not chained to any external comfort. You are proving your own sovereignty. The modern world offers endless opportunities for this practice. You might choose a 24-hour digital detox, leaving your phone in another room to reclaim your attention and prove it is yours to command. You could skip a favorite dessert, not for dietary reasons, but to feel the minor urge for sugar and consciously choose to let it pass, observing that your contentment remains intact. Or you could take the physically harder route, like choosing the stairs over the elevator, as a small, daily reminder that your body and will can handle discomfort. Each of these acts is a vote for your inner strength over external ease. So here is a direct challenge to make this shift real. For the next 24 hours, choose one specific pleasure you will consciously forego. It could be that second cup of coffee, the habitual scroll through social media, or the background noise of music or television. When the moment of desire arises, do not fight it with resentment. Simply observe the sensation, acknowledge it, and then reaffirm your choice. That small space, that moment of saying no to a harmless thing, is where you build the muscle of self-mastery that will serve you in every truly difficult situation life can bring. What if you could be completely indifferent to praise and blame? This is the liberating territory of the 25th internal shift, moving from a desperate need for external approval to a quiet, unwavering commitment to your own integrity. The applause of the crowd is a fickle and unreliable compass, changing direction with the winds of popular opinion. When you make it your guide, you surrender your soul's true north, which is your own reasoned judgment about what is right and good. Your self-worth must be built on something more stable than the ever-shifting sands of what other people think. The Stoic teacher Epictetus laid down a clear, non-negotiable law on this matter. He stated that it is impossible for a person to begin to learn what he thinks he already knows while also striving to please others. He went even further, declaring that you cannot be the same person, someone of true character, while also being a person who is focused on being pleasing to others. The two goals are fundamentally at odds. One chains your happiness to the unpredictable reactions of other people, while the other anchors it in the solid ground of your own virtuous choices. Consider an artist faced with a critical choice. They can study the latest trends, analyze what is selling, and create work designed to win quick popularity and the approval of influential critics. This path offers the immediate reward of likes and accolades, or they can turn inward, listen to their own creative impulse, and produce the work that feels authentically true to their vision, even if it is unconventional, challenging, or initially misunderstood. The first artist is a people pleaser whose sense of success rises and falls with every review. The second is a person of integrity whose satisfaction comes from the act of creation itself, from the knowledge that they have been faithful to their art. Their worth is not on the line with every piece of feedback because it is secured by their internal commitment. This principle applies far beyond the studio. It lives in the boardroom where you choose to speak an unpopular truth instead of a convenient lie. It lives in your social life when you refuse to laugh at a cruel joke to fit in. It lives in the quiet moment you choose the harder, right path over the easier, wrong one, with no one there to witness it but you. So take a moment for a difficult but freeing reflection. Recall a specific time, large or small, when you consciously compromised a personal value to gain the approval of someone else. Perhaps you remained silent when you should have spoken up, or you agreed to a plan that felt dishonest. Now, without judging your past self, simply ask, if I were guided solely by my integrity in that situation, what is one single action I would have done differently? The answer to that question is your compass pointing toward a more authentic and unshakable version of yourself. The most important conversation you have all day is the one you have with yourself. It runs like a constant, silent stream beneath the surface of your actions, and its tone, whether you realize it or not, dictates the entire quality of your life. This 26th internal shift is about mastering that inner dialogue, learning to become the reasoned and compassionate author of your self-talk rather than its helpless listener. Your internal narrative is not a neutral broadcast of facts. It is an active force that builds your reality, brick by mental brick. Stoicism calls you to take conscious command of this construction project, ensuring every word you say to yourself is constructive, rational, and aligned with virtue. Marcus Aurelius began his days with this precise discipline, carefully scripting the tone of his own mind before the world could interrupt. He would instruct himself, say to yourself first thing in the morning, "Today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." His purpose was not to start the day with cynicism, but with clear-eyed, compassionate reason. By anticipating the nature of others, he was preemptively disarming his own potential for irritation, framing their behavior not as a personal insult but as a manifestation of their own ignorance. He was shaping his inner dialogue to serve his peace and purpose. Consider the stark difference between two possible inner monologues in a moment of challenge. The automatic negative script might sound like this: "I cannot handle this presentation. I am going to embarrass myself. Everyone will see I am a fraud." This narrative, left unchecked, fuels anxiety and undermines performance. It is a story of powerlessness. The Stoic refrain, consciously chosen, sounds entirely different. This is an opportunity to practice courage and articulate my ideas clearly. My value is not determined by their approval, but by my own effort and integrity. I am prepared and I will do my best. This is a narrative of agency. The external circumstance is identical, but the internal reality, and therefore the likely outcome, could not be more different. Your mind is listening to everything you tell it, and it believes you. So your challenge is to become a gentle editor of your own thoughts. For the next hour, make a quiet pact with yourself to simply monitor your self-talk. Do not judge it or try to stop it, just observe the running commentary. Notice when it slips into irrational catastrophizing or harsh self-criticism. Then, with the patience of a teacher correcting a well-meaning student, gently offer a more reasonable, more compassionate alternative. If the thought whispers, "You always mess this up," you might quietly correct it with, "I have struggled with this before, and I can learn from those experiences now." This is not about empty positive thinking, but about aligning your private conversation with the unshakable truths of your own capability and worth. When it comes to money, possessions, or status, have you ever defined what enough looks like for you? Most of us operate on autopilot, chasing an ever-receding horizon where a little more is always the answer. This 27th shift is the wisdom of knowing what is enough, a deliberate act of drawing a clear, personal finish line in the various races of your life. It is the practical, tangible application of limiting your desires, and it brings an immediate and profound sense of peace, freeing your energy for pursuits that genuinely nourish your soul. The Roman philosopher Seneca put his finger on the exact problem, writing that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Poverty, in the Stoic sense, is not a condition of your bank account, but a state of perpetual wanting. You can be a billionaire and remain spiritually destitute if your appetite for more is never satisfied. Defining enough is how you declare your independence from that endless hunger. Take the area of income. Without a defined enough, every raise or bonus is immediately absorbed into a new, higher baseline of normal. The thrill of the increase fades in days, replaced by the quiet pressure to reach the next rung. But what if you decided, with clear intention, that a specific annual income was truly sufficient for your needs, your savings, and your reasonable comforts? Any earnings beyond that point cease to be a necessity for your happiness and become a tool for generosity, for security, or for creative freedom. The pressure to constantly earn more evaporates because you have already won your own game. The same principle applies to material goods. How many pairs of shoes are enough? How much square footage in a home is enough? Without an answer, you are forever organizing, upgrading, and managing your possessions, which in turn ends up possessing your time and attention. Defining enough for your social commitments is equally liberating. How many evenings out per week truly replenish you, and how many simply drain you? Knowing you're enough allows you to say no gracefully, protecting your time for rest, for deep work, or for your closest relationships. So here is a prompt to make this shift personal and immediate. Choose one specific area of your life right now, perhaps your monthly spending, the clutter in your home, or the hours you give to social obligations. Now define your enough, write it down. What is the specific, concrete line that, once reached, allows you to feel complete and redirect your focus? That single, conscious definition is a declaration of your freedom. Everything you love is on loan from the universe. Stoicism teaches us to hold it lightly. This final, 28th shift is the ultimate culmination of all that has come before, a deep and peaceful embrace of impermanence. It is the understanding that all things, from the mug you drink your coffee from to the people you hold dearest, are temporary guests in your life. This is not a cold nihilism, but a profound realism that makes every single moment infinitely more precious and frees you from the exhausting struggle of clinging to what cannot be held. Marcus Aurelius returned to this truth as a constant meditation, writing that you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He saw the entire world as a river of passing forms, reminding himself that time is a violent stream. No sooner does a thing come in sight than it is swept away. This perspective is not meant to sadden you, but to energize you with a fierce and present gratitude. Think of the last truly beautiful sunset you witnessed. Its power and its beauty were derived entirely from its transience. You did not watch it and feel sadness that it would end. You were captivated precisely because you knew the brilliant colors would soon fade into night. You leaned in, you paid full attention, you absorbed its gift completely because it was fleeting. This is how the Stoic approaches every valued aspect of life. Knowing that a conversation with a loved one is temporary makes you listen more deeply. Knowing your health is on loan encourages you to care for your body with greater respect. Knowing your current project or phase of life will not last forever motivates you to engage with it fully without holding back. The awareness of an end gives weight and meaning to the now. So now bring this shift home in the most personal way possible. Think of one thing or one person you are deeply attached to, the loss of which would feel devastating. Instead of turning away from that thought, gently hold it. Contemplate for just a moment the temporary nature of this anchor in your life. See it not as a permanent possession, but as a profound and current gift. How does that conscious recognition of its borrowed nature change the quality of your appreciation for it right now? This is the final, liberating shift, where letting go of the illusion of permanence allows you to finally, fully hold what matters. These 28 shifts are not a simple checklist to be completed. They are a deeply interconnected system, a blueprint for constructing an unshakable internal character from the ground up. Each one supports the others, from the foundational sorting of control to the final embrace of impermanence, creating a resilient architecture for your mind. The core message of Stoicism, echoed through every one of these mental moves, is that the external success you chase is not the prize. It is the natural, almost inevitable, byproduct of doing the internal work first. When your inner world is ordered by virtue and reason, your actions in the outer world become more focused, more effective, and entirely your own. Your life ceases to be a reaction to circumstance and becomes a deliberate expression of your character. Seneca captured the ultimate reward of this journey with stunning clarity. He wrote that the happy man is content with his present lot, no matter what it is, and is reconciled to his circumstances. He finds his wealth within himself. This is the true destination, a state where your fulfillment is sourced from your own virtue. making you immune to the whims of fortune. The scale of this transformation can feel immense, but the path forward is built of small, consistent steps. You do not need to master all 28 shifts at once. Begin where you are. Choose just one or two that resonated most deeply with you, that sparked a flicker of recognition or challenge. Perhaps it is the practice of pausing your judgments, or the deliberate cultivation of gratitude, or the courageous decision to define what enough means for you. Focus on that single shift for a week, then another. This is how you rebuild a life, one conscious thought and one virtuous action at a time. We would love to hear about your commitment. In the comments below, share the one internal shift you will commit to practicing first. Your choice can inspire others, and together, we build a community dedicated to practical wisdom. If this journey into the architecture of a resilient mind has been valuable for you, subscribe for more guides to living with greater purpose and peace.